president is out of town, but there is a lot buzzing on Capitol Hill right now, no doubt about that.
Yeah, all right. Between North Korea, of course, and the Trump-McConnell feud we've got going on, Raul Alvilar, former national political director for the DNC, and Spencer Sullivan, president of Lean Campaign Strategies, here with us right now. Because obviously we were just talking about North Korea, I want to get both of your takes on what each side of the aisle is saying as to what the president's rhetoric is, what North Korea's rhetoric is, what their thoughts are. Spencer, what can I
Look, so one of the problems here is with diplomacy, with negotiations, you need to have a credible threat on the table, a credible threat of military force on the table. And I think one of the more dangerous things going on right now within the United States is anyone who is trying to undercut that credible threat of the President of the United States. Without that credible threat of actual military force, or an actual strike that we've seen in Syria in the past couple months, right? To bring North Koreans to the table with diplomacy, with a compromise, with some type of negotiation is very tough to do.
Raul?
Right. No, I would say that we have to act diplomatically because, as you mentioned earlier, there's China now going to be a part of this. So we have to make sure that we are not being reckless and that we are being thoughtful and we are being careful about what we're saying because the rhetoric that he's using, locked and loaded, we're not in the Wild West, you know. So we got to make sure that we're moving in a way that's.
What should the president say then? If there's a threat out there, what language do you think the president should be using?
Yeah, I think what we should do is we should say, look, we need to be strong, but we also need to be thoughtful about what's going on. I think what he needs to do is he needs to bring in other folks that are our allies to say, what are we going to do about this threat that we have to America currently right now?
Look, do I wish that the dictator of North Korea, who killed his own brother and massive oppression among his own regime, was thoughtful and strong? No, he speaks in certain languages, and the president's going to speak in that certain language. And I definitely want to emphasize one other point here is that, you know, the major pressure here should also be on North Korea, but also to be on China, right? I mean, does China want a failed state on their border? Does China want these massive amount of immigrants if a war was to happen, if a military strike were to happen, all these immigrants going from North Korea to China? They don't. So this is really for the Chinese leadership to come in and put final pressure on North Korea. I mean, for months, for years, we've talked about all these sanctions, right? And how China is kind of lackadaisical and only comes in the final moment. Well, guess what? This is one of the final moments, and President Trump's trying to force that.
Sure. We got a lot to get to, too, aside from North Korea.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, seems like it happened 2 weeks ago, but President Trump talking about, kind of calling Mitch McConnell out, saying, you know, you need to get back to work, you need to get on health care. What is your response to the fact that the president is now calling out the Senate Majority Leader who, you know, he's kind of going down the line of his people and calling them out? Is this a smart move?
I come from a phrase called that says under promise and over deliver. And I think what we're seeing here is frustrations on both sides. We see the White House frustration with legislation not getting passed. We see the members of Congress frustration because of these so-called arbitrary deadlines, right? And in terms of these interviews and whatnot. So what I would say here is there's a lot of frustration go along here, but Mitch McConnell is a great strategist. He's gotten a lot done with a very weak hand.
But let's talk about, because I want to bring you in on this one here.
Sure.
I'll say two words that you say this to any Republican, it drives them nuts, but there is one leader in Congress who's been able to get their constituents behind them, and that's Nancy Pelosi. I mean, you can't deny that. So what can Mitch McConnell do to get everybody in line together, at least on his side of the aisle?
Well, look,
or I know you probably don't want to see that happen, but
no, look, I want to see what's good for this country.
Yeah,
I want to see what's good for America, and I think that's what most Americans want.
Sure.
You know, they want an effective and efficient government. They want to see Congress passing laws that are going to affect them on their bottom line. You know, as you said, the Congresswoman is a great leader and knows how to, as we like to say in democratic politics, herd cats. You know, so you got to get your people in line, and you got to say, hey, look, this is what we need to do for the good of this country.
All right, guys, we're out of time, but Raul and Spencer, thanks so much for coming in and talking about this today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for coming in.